Hello and welcome to Math Matters with Miss Jen. I'm Miss Jen and I love math and I hope you will too. Today we're going to talk about how to solve problems like the ones that appear on this sheet. We notice the directions, which we always want to read, say, find the missing addends. As I take a look at these questions, I see that they're all addition. They all have the whole provided, but they're missing a part. And indeed, addend is a special word for a part of an addition equation. So we have missing addends. I also at a quick glance noticed that all the numbers we're pretty much working with double digits here. We have some that are smaller than that, but also none of them are above 40, I notice. So in order to solve these questions, I'm going to use one of our tools, one of our representations, which is a number line, and this one goes up to 40, so that will work well for us. You'll notice that the 10, the 20, and the 30 are all noted, especially with colors, and that's going to really help us because the particular strategy that I want to teach you for adding here, or for find the missing addend, is to think of how many more do we need to get to our total. And in particular, we're going to use the multiples of 10 to help us get there. So here we go. For the first question, we're starting with 14. I'm going to go ahead and put 14 on our number line. And we're going to move to the right. We want to get all the way to 27, so I'm going to circle that here. Now, I'm going to think of the multiple of 10 that's between those two. So I know that 20 is between 14 and 27. And in order to get from 14 to 27, how big of a jump is that? It's not immediately obvious to me. So I'm going to break it up in terms of this multiple of 10 here. I know that to get from 14 to 20, I need to add 6. I know that because I've memorized my friends of 10, and I know that 4 plus 6 more is going to get me to the next 10. So now I've added 6 to 14. I'm going to go ahead and note that there. 14 plus 6. That gets me to 20. But I don't want to get to 20. I want to get to 27. From 20 to 27 is a jump of 7 more. That's also a pretty easy fact to know. 20 plus 7 is 27. So I added 6 first, and then I added 7, and that got me to 27. I'm going to note it like that here. And 6 and 7 is 13. So I know that if I start at 14 and I add 6 more and then 7 more, I'll have 27 altogether. 6 and 7 more is 13. So I guess that gives me my answer to my original question. 14 plus 13 is 27. I just didn't know that at the beginning as well. Now there's multiple other strategies I could use to do this, but I'm just going to demonstrate this one in particular. All right, number 2. We're going to start at 16 and we want to get to 24. So I know, looking at the 6, that it's a jump of 4 more to get me to 20. And from 20 to 24 is also 4. So I know that if I add 16 and 4 more and 4 more, I'll have 24. But in this particular worksheet, it's wanting me to give one answer. So instead of 4 and 4, I could even kind of cross it off and write 8 instead. I'll write it over here because this sheet gives me a separate space. So that means that 16 plus 8 more is going to get me to 24. At this point, you can pause the video and work on some on your own, or I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple more examples. In this one, notice that the missing addend, the missing part, comes first. So I could solve this in a couple of different ways. I'll show you, for example, we want to get to 34, so I'm going to highlight that right here. And we're going to add 20 to get there. So what I could do is actually go back 20. 34 back 10 would get me to 24, and back 10 more would get me to 14. So I actually know that I need to start at 14 if I'm going to add 20 to get to 34. So that's one way to think of it. 14 plus 20 is indeed 34. But using the strategy that I've been talking about here, I'm actually going to think of it as just flipping it around. So I know that if blank plus 20 is 34, I also know that 20 plus blank is 34. That's the any order property of addition, or the more official fancy term for it is called the commutative property of addition. So now I'm going to approach this one just like we have before. I have 20 and I know I want to get to 34. So I'm going to jump 10 to get to 30 and 4 more to get to 34, giving me my final answer of 10 plus 4, which is 14. All right, moving on for the last two. I will go ahead and pick good ones. All right, I'll do number 10 now. 17 plus what is 35? Well, I know that 17 plus 3 is going to get me to 20. And then from 20 to 35, well, let's see. I need from 20 to 30 is going to be 10 more. And then from 30 to 35 is going to be 5 more. So let's go ahead. I did that kind of quickly in my head, but to slow it down a bit, we're going to start at 17. We want to get all the way to 35. So the way I did it was I thought of 17 to 20 is adding 3 more. And then we also need to add 10 more to get to there and 5 more to get to here. So my final answer is going to be the combination of all these. I have 10 plus 5 and 3 is 8. So my final answer is 18. Again, there's a number of ways you could have jumped to 3, and then you could have jumped by 3 to 20 and then just known that 20 plus 15 gets you to 35. There's a number of ways to do it. Let's do one more. Which one should we do? Let's do this one. 19 plus what is equal to 38? Okay. So 19 plus 1 is going to get me to 20. And I know that to get from 20 to 38, I need to go 18. And since I needed to add 1 and 18, that means I needed to add 19 altogether. So again, if this is confusing you, there's a lot of ways I could break it down slower. And teachers, you might want to break it down a little bit more for your students that need it. Another good thing to do is just to practice adding in general on a number line. So here's another number line that just goes up to 20. Of course, number lines go on forever. So there's an arrow here. It goes on to 100 and 200 and infinity even. And in fact, a lot of our students won't know this yet, but it actually goes on forever in that direction as well. But we're not going to cover that until a couple years from now. So here, this is going to be my just brief intro to how to add on a number line. If we want to do something like 8 plus 4, we want to start, a lot of times we like to start at 0. We want to do 8 plus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 would get me there. So I know if I move 8 forward and 4 more forward, I get to 12. So 12 would be my final answer there. Now we can do a similar thing here. We can use this for subtraction, lots of things, but I'm going to highlight my tens. And another way to think of 8 plus 4 is to think of it as 8 plus, well, if I add 2, I get to 10, and then I need to add 2 more to get to 12. So you can think of it as 8 plus 2 plus 2. And that, of course, is also equal to our same answer as 12. Let me explain that again. Let's say we want to do 7 plus 6. All right. Well, I know that 7 only needs 3 more to get to 10. So maybe I'm not sure what 7 plus 6 is, but I do know that 7 plus 3 is 10. Well, if that's 7 plus 3 and I really want to add 6, then I'm going to need to add another 3. Have I added, starting with 7, have I added 6? Yep. And the answer is 13.